Once again, good morning, my friends. This is again Surinder before you, and I just want to brief you up and also touch one of the research publication which has happened by me recently. The title is "Concretizing Social Solidarity During COVID-19 Pandemic: An Exploration of Durkheimian Perspective." His comments, specifically touching his theory on social solidarity, fortitude. Whereas, talking about pandemic 19, people have different concepts about it. And it's not exactly a public health issue or a medical challenge, of course it is, but it is a sociological disconnect, a sociological hazard, I would say. And whereas this paper has talked about, this is my personal research work, it's taken a long toll of time, and then publication happened. But I want to tell you what I talked about. It is like from disease to a disaster. It happened, pandemic 19, from local to global, because not even a single individual was left who was not either infected or affected. All of us may not have been infected by this virus, but of course, the entire number of human race, the entire numerical got affected by it, be it any gender, developing countries, developed countries, or anything. You're economically sound or not, you're technically sound or not, you're educated or not. So all of us have been infected. Either you call it a human sloppy error, or something, man-made disaster or a natural disaster. Still, there are a lot of theories. We confuse ourselves, and different confusions cropping up. But I would say, of course, it is a disaster. Sociologically speaking, it's a disaster, which is more a sociological disaster hazard, I would say. So now, understanding the same thing I've talked about, it has also been put forward and advocated and sort of highlighted, mentioned by Emile Durkheim, one of the thinker, I would say, from classical sociological thinker, like in the branch of Auguste Comte. Then you have Max Weber, then Karl Marx. Equally, we have Emile Durkheim, who's talked majorly uh, about social fortitude, social solidarity, giving collective manifestation, coming together against social problems and social behaviors with collectivity. And in fact, I've successfully, at my level best, have tried what is the importance, and have also highlighted what actually is the importance of solidarity and social fortitude when it comes to a cluttered, when it comes to a devastating situation such as like natural disasters or man-made disasters, how important it is. And this is another thing we've picked up. It also happened during COVID-19. He's mentioned the social pariah. And in fact, when studying specifically this culture, Asian culture, because Asian region or the location has been comparatively more prone to natural disasters, and developing countries as well, specifically and particularly talking about Asian location. There are reasons I've talked about, because paucity of good warning system, and lack of access to sites and locations where the disasters have taken place for rescue and mitigation and operation purposes. And then at the same time, preparedness level comparatively is very less as compared to developed countries. So these are few things. But our overall psychology, our overall social ambience has been very different. In fact, if you try to take these two dimensions, rationalism and antithetical to rationalism, these two areas or dimensions have to be juxtaposed. But when a disaster happens, because there is a psychological clutter, there is a psychological collapse, not only a physicality getting collapsed, but the psychological collapse, and then trauma is also there. Of course, physicality has been damaged to all dimensions, like physical, economic dimension, political dimension, social harmony, and our lives, everything. But that psychological area, or the dimension which has been damaged, which has been negatively hit, stays longer, that lingers. So we need to understand what is our Asian culture when it comes to dealing with disasters, how we perceive, what are our social construct, what is the interpretation of our social constructions about disasters. Many a times there have been theories, there have been kind of philosophical happenings or personal interpretations that there are social pariahs. Because of them, disasters happen in a given community, such as like taking a very recent example of pandemic 19 disaster. There are many who claimed, put forward this theory, and not just put forward, they strongly believe that Chinese people, of course, have been the reasons at the back of this disaster. Or all people who had similar features, they are responsible, and they are potentially carrying the virus in themselves and are willingly spreading it across to different people, as many number of people as they come across. And such as like in India also, a lot of North Indian people were blamed and claimed, and they were pinpointed that they are the healthy carriers of virus, and they are spreading it. So these are called social pariahs. And social pariahs are those people when a disaster happens, when a mishappening happens, or a damage which is collective, which is social. There are certain sections of people who are blamed for that particular disaster, who are blamed for that particular mishappening. And these are those sections of societies. It may be a gender pariah, there may be economically weak people, those who are disabled, or those who are little, they don't have a much say politically, socially, and economically. They may also be called and interpreted as pariah in that particular society. But during COVID-19, there were a lot of people like Northeast people, Muslim peoples, in Indian context I'm talking about, they were termed as pariahs. And these pariahs are those who are just weak in themselves, and they're already struggling, and just they're being labeled, and they're being titled as the very reason, the very cause of that particular social turmoil and trouble. The condition becomes aggravated and more pathological for them, and not just for them but for ourselves also, because we want to target, we want to portray a particular locality or particular features or communities or people as pariahs, as responsible and causative agents of that particular disaster. So when we think about disasters, they may be natural disasters, of course, broadly and primarily and mainly and categorically, and man-made disasters also. We have a tendency as a human being to think for social pariahs, those who have been there, due to whom the disaster is happening constantly. There may be earthquakes, there may be avalanches, there may be floods, flash floods, droughts, winter, severe winter, thundering, lightning. We just call them because of these people, these things are happening, because we don't have any logic, we don't have any rationality to think upon why such things have been happening. Maybe due to climate change, maybe due to global climate which is going up, or other human activities which are getting extreme. There are different reasons for a natural disaster. Sometimes we can mitigate a natural impact or the happening occurrence of a disaster, and sometimes we just give them invitations, come and hit us, come and hit us, we are there. So the theory of social pariah is very important, because it deals with our psychology, it deals with our social system, which has a manifestation of physicality to be experienced, to be recognized. But at the same time, when a disaster happens, either you experience, either you agree, or you have observation or not, the social pariahs are still there, being picked up, they're being addressed, they are being sort of, we always say as during the COVID-19, the special feature, typical feature people such as like Chinese people, Mongolian people, and Northeast people, they were taken as potential carriers. Potential carriers, they were also interpreted as they are spreading the virus with a mission, with an intention, with an agenda. So that should not happen. So we have to be very scientific, we have to be very socially very cultured and fashioned in our behaviors when we deal with disasters, because that judgmental behavior, that criticizing people, that blaming people, it's happening because of you and it's happening because of that, may not be a right strategy to deal with a disaster. And we need to understand what are the causes, what are the reasons at the back of it. But that demarcation and piling on people may not be a good idea. We need to understand that we cannot just blame people. Of course, we need to understand also at the same time that In order to have a collective solidarity, in order to have a unified behavior and coordinated activities to be launched against a disaster, maybe response, mitigation, or rehabilitation and rescue, or other things, and preparedness possibilities, we must be coordinated and we must be teamed up. We must be unified. We must be working toward a common and collective objective. And if we come with pariah thinking, we are divided, and that should not happen. That's what I'm trying to say. So look, theoretically and empirically also and socially also, try to race around your mind and different pictures, experiences, try to peep into and muster up those experiences. You will certainly, either you are in developed countries or developing countries, or you are western or eastern, whatever cultures and ambiances you are part of, you will still experience and observe those pariahs. So let's take away this social pariah kind of theory or possibility and contemplation from our life personally and from our social life as well, because they will hone us up, they will put us in a better condition to prepare with scientificity, with logic, with rationality, to handle natural disasters and to deal with global change or climate change and different things, environmental issues, and move toward a better and sustainable development. Thanks a lot for listening, watching. Hope I've made some relevant comments. This is Dr. Surendra Kumar.